take 2 is actually take 3. I started recording this bit again and a fly appeared and it was really annoying, so I had to get rid of it. So, what was I saying? I've forgotten. I had decided that I was going to start with my whips rather than my finished objects. Is that normal? I don't know, can't remember. That was generally like the summary of what I just said in my previous 5 minutes I just recorded, which you're not going to see because it was interrupted. So starting with whips. So my first whip is a small whip, it's a new whip. One that you've definitely not seen before. In fact, maybe I don't think you've seen any of my whips before. Not sure. But so I was saying, Knitting Nellie on Instagram, who some of you may be aware of, is, I don't think she's hosting it, I think some of her Fibre friends are. So because she's had some unexpected medical problems over the last few months, and she's not been able to sew her gorgeous project bags and sell them, like I think it's her normal main form of income, her friends have been rallying around her to do a knit along, and it was kind of like the final motivation for me to cast on one of her patterns. So I've been meaning to do it for a really long time, but I had promised myself I wouldn't cast on any more sock patterns until I'd finished some of my sock whips already. I think I have about 5 pairs on the go at the minute. I'm not really sure. I've kind of lost track. And a pair that my mum wants me to finish for her, which I have to admit I have no feelings for. I don't like the yarn, I don't like the colour, and the gauge is completely different to mine, so that's going to be a challenge. And I don't want to finish it either. It's not that far off, like she's done most of it, but still. Yes, so however, because it's for a good cause, because it's to support Morgan, sorry I was going to call her Knitting Nellie then, that's not her name, to support Morgan, and because there are some fairly lovely prizes in the knit along, I thought, okay, I'm going to do it, I'm going to cast on another pair of socks. So, I decided I was going to do her Calico sock pattern. So, I'm in a tangle because there's loads of ends. Can you see this? It's so cold from my face. Is that? I'm going to go a bit closer. Oh, sorry, this is so undignified. There we go, that's better. And I have one of my newest stitch markers on here. Sorry, it's getting a bit blown out. Can you see? Can you see? It's a little strawberry trying to... I think it's too blurry. Okay, well, anyway. I have some new stitch markers available in my shop. I'll talk about it a bit more at the end. So this is the Calico sock pattern. This is a naturally dyed mini from Woolly Mammoth Fibre Company, and then the rest is Exmoor sock in the colours Mizzle, Drumble, Mackerel, Sky and Hemel, I think. And yeah, so I'm trying to find a way of making this part of the room a bit brighter. Is it going to do it? No. Okay. So yeah, that's my progress. I've just done the heel flap and I'm doing the gusset now and doing the decreases, and then I will be on the foot. And I'm going to do the toe in the Hemel colour, which is the dark green, I think. I don't think I'll use the yellow. Yes, so I really like that peach colour at top, but because it's 100% natural sock by Woolly Mammoth Fibre Co, there's no nylon in it, and I think for a toe I probably want something with a bit of nylon content. I've never knit a no nylon sock and I'm not terribly confident about how hard wearing that would be. I know people do, and I know that yarn is designed for that, but I think if I was to do a no nylon sock I would probably want some silk or tencel in there just to make me feel a bit better, because it takes me a long time to knit a sock and I'm quite hard wearing on them, and I would be really precious about them if they didn't have nylon in, and I don't want to do that. So I am actually thinking that these would look really lovely with my new skirt I've made. So I probably am going to prioritise finishing this pair over my other languishing sock whips because they are very spring-like, and if I'm going to wear them, now's the time to be wearing them. So I'm hoping to crack on with that. So yes, that's the Calico sock by Knitting Nellie. However, I did do some mods. I think she tells you to use 2.5mm needles or 2.25. I used 2mm needles, so yes, it is a bit tighter. However, you do get quite a few sizes with the colourwork chart, like maybe 3 or something, maybe 4. I normally do a 64 stitch sock on 2mm needles. I can go down to 60 if it's a sport weight, but the chart had for 72 stitches or 74, whatever the next one would be. So I increased in the, where was that? I increased after the rib. So I cast on 64, I increased up to the next size on the rib, I did the colourwork chart, and I decreased down again afterwards. So that's why the rib is the colourwork section, like there's a bit of shaping there, but when you've got it on, you can't tell, like it just all stretches out to be about the same width. So maybe after blocking it'll be less obvious. But I did that because on my Magic Toadstool socks, whatever they're called, by Stone Knits, Magic Mushroom, something. My mushroom socks by Stone Knits. She tells you to do that in the pattern, and it meant that I didn't have to go up to so many needle sizes for the colour work, and so for the knitting and everything, and it just looked much neater and it felt much better, and I could get it on a bit easier. This is a bit tight to get on. I probably should have done 2.25. I think I need to invest in some more small Chiago, whatever they're called, small circulars, because I only have them in size 2, which is part of the reason why I knit most of my socks size 2, because, sorry, 2mm, that's what I've got. So, but it probably would be worth me buying 2.25, and, you know, maybe that would be better for colourwork socks. I just like the density of the 2mm means that they are quite hard wearing, so, but yeah, so I'm quite pleased with that so far. Very pretty. Yeah, so that's that whip. And my next whip, right. My next 2 whips look quite similar. I'm not gonna lie. But my first one, I'm not holding in a project bag because, as you can see, I'm using a cone of mohair and Plutlopi. And for those of you who've worked with Plutlopi before, know that when you pull on it, it just breaks. So I have just been keeping it in the lid of this box that I bought some bedding from TK Maxx a long time ago. People who aren't in the UK, TK Maxx is a shop that sells branded stuff, cheaper. And this is, you might recognise Walla, because I don't want to spend the amount of money it costs to buy bedding by Walla. Anyway, tangent, I just know it's a very recognisable print. I'm not wealthy enough to buy Walla bedding unless it's from TK Maxx. But I'm using the lid of the box it came from to hold the project. So it is the Tulip jumper, sweater, pullover, whatever word she uses. She doesn't, she just says Tulip, by Melody Hoffman. I've been umming and ahhing about this for ages because I really like how it looks on Knitting Nellie. She has a really lovely photo of her wearing one, I think, over a red skirt dress, and it looks gorgeous. However, everybody who I've watched do a podcast about it said the neckline was too big and it stretched out too much, and it was more of I guess a boat neckline, and that was a bit complicated with wearing things underneath apart from a tank top, and I'm definitely not wearing this with a tank top because it would be itchy as hell. So yeah, I didn't know what to do. I ummed and ahed for ages, but I really wanted to make one. I had the Plutlopi and I'd done a swatch ages ago. I bought this cone of mohair on eBay for not very much money. and it is a bit yellowy. I don't know whether that really shows up. I think it probably looks like quite a nice cream on screen, but actually in real life it's like a dreadful yellowy colour. Like it kind of looks like it's gone yellow with age. And I kind of knew that when I bought it because it was cheap. The whole thing was like £15 and it's, I don't know, like it's a lot. There's a lot there. Now I don't know for sure if it's actual mohair or whether it's something else. It could be anything, but it behaves like mohair. And it does feel quite soft, so I mean, who knows. And I'm using like an oatmeal colour of Plutlopi. And I cast on. So what did I do that was different? Because this is modified. I did this a while ago. Let me think. I have gotten to the point where I've split the sleeves and I'm now doing the body. No, sorry. The reason why I'm keeping it in a box and the reason why I wanted to cast it on is because of the nature of the setup I have going on with these two skeins, Plutlopi and the cone of mohair. It is not a project I can take out the house very easily to knit. I did take it out for a knit night one evening to the pub. But it was kind of hilarious because I had to have like I had to sit on like the left end of the table with a chair at the end of the table, so I could put this slightly lower down on the chair to tension it so I could work on it. I took the whole thing in a massive shoebox and was just like knitting out of a shoebox, and it did look a bit odd, but I felt less on display because I was surrounded by people knitting. So, you know, I did look a bit weird, but at least I wasn't the only person in the pub knitting. I was the only person knitting out of a shoebox, but there we go. But otherwise I don't take it out the house. So I knew it'd be a really slow project, and it's going to get to a point where it's probably too warm to knit on it because it would be quite sweaty on my hands. So I wanted to cast on whilst it was still relatively cool, and I think I did cast it on in April, and it's now mid-May, and this is the progress I've made. Did kind of hope I'd be finished by now, but you'll see in a minute why I'm not. And so yes, I've split for the sleeves and I'm on the body. It is quite a quick knit because it's on like 5mm needles, which is quite big for me. And I am pleased with it so far. And so you'll see the neckline is a bit different. It's still quite big, but it's not as big as it perhaps could have been. And I have tried it on, and I think it will be quite low, but it doesn't seem to be too like hanging offy on my shoulders. So what I did was I cast on the smallest size for the neckline, so the least amount of stitches that you could cast on in her pattern. I knit it double the length and I did a folded over neckline and then knitted it together. The hope being that that won't stretch out as much. I mean, it does look like it has the ability that it could, so I do wonder before I start wearing it if I should put some elastic in it just to keep that shape. Because my magnolia bloom I made, which had a bit of a funnily neck situation, that has stretched out quite a lot and it's not as neat as it was. So I was toying with the idea of putting elastic in that as well. So thinking about it, maybe that is something I will do whilst it's still got some shape. But I don't know how you do that, so I need to work out how you do that. So it's a raglan. I think, yeah, so I cast on for the smallest size and then did some jiggery pokery to then increase up to the size I wanted to knit, which I think was the second or third size, possibly third. Yeah, because I think my swatch was a bit off. So the only thing that worries me, I don't know if you can see, but there is a bit of a weird bump going on here. Here with the shaping, with this short rows where they end. Here and here there's a bit of a weird bulge. And I'm hoping that will block out, but I'm not overly confident that it will. I don't know. So mine might not end up looking as beautiful as knitting Nellie's did. I don't know. But we live and learn. I kind of want something that's a bit rustic and a bit pretty. So the pattern, for those of you who don't know, which you probably can't see, terribly well in this picture, I don't know. It's got a scalloped bottom, so I think I want to knit mine so that it ends at my natural waist, so the scallops then would go over a waistband, so you can kind of see a bit of the waistband but not really, so that I could wear it over dresses, and like I think it would be really lovely with this skirt in the colder weather. I think the colours go together quite well. I don't know if you can see that. I do have a scrap of the fabric here actually. So I think they would go together really well because of the check that's in it. So I'm quite excited for that. And also, you know, like my Fern and Feather, my Lettlopi jumper I made, I wore so much even in the summer last year because in the evenings I just put it over everything. So yeah, that's definitely going to get some wear. But that's on hold at the moment because cup of tea. I think I need a sip of tea if it's cool enough. Earl Grey tea is the best. Is there anything better than a sip of really perfect temperature tea when you're thirsty? Okay, it's a bit better. So my mother came to stay a few weeks ago, maybe quite a long time ago at this point. Yeah, I'm not sure, it might have been quite a while ago. And she said she really wanted a jumper like my Fern and Feather. She absolutely loved it and she wanted one. So I got her to try it on. I don't really understand why. I think I might have told you about this in the last video. It rode up on her a bit funny and it didn't really like the shape of it, didn't really suit her, and I didn't really understand why because I thought we were quite similar shapes. Anyway, so she picked a different pattern and I think I did share a screenshot of that in the last video. Now that I think about it, I think I did. But anyway, I decided to cast it on. So this is one of my project bags that I made. You can't see, but I'm sat on a quilt made from the same fabric, and it's from a designer called Catherine Quinn, and she sells her fabrics on Spoonflower. Now I bought this fabric prior to Brexit, I mean literally right on the edge, like it was after Christmas, but it just arrived before they started charging import fees. I was very, very lucky because I had bought quite a lot of fabric. But yeah, so I had some left over, so I made myself a project bag, and this is one of my favourite project bags. I absolutely love it. It's a shame I didn't order more because I think it would have been nice to make more to share with you guys, but I'm sorry, I don't have any more of that fabric. I've pretty much used it all. But anyway, I'm just going to show this really quickly because it's actually kind of boring what I've done so far. So this project you knit bottom up, and I noticed that the stitch counts were kind of the same as the Fern and Feather, the numbers for the body in the sizes, the two sizes I was considering making for my mum. One was the same number of stitches as my Fern and Feather, which was a little bit small for her. However, this recommended you go one needle size up. So I'm going to confess I did not swatch because I thought, well, it's the same number of stitches and the same yarn as my Fern and Feather. So if it's one needle size up, if it's 5mm rather than 4, it will be a little bit bigger. So, I mean, in theory, that should be right. Hard to tell at the moment. So I'm just, yeah, I'm knitting the same size as my Fern and Feather, but on a slightly bigger needle, and I've done a few inches on the body. And I want to share this because even though there's not very much, I just a couple of thoughts about like gauge, tension and yarn. I really like the gauge of my Fern and Feather. It's obviously a little bit denser than this, and it's held up really, really, really well, and it just feels fantastic. I remember knitting on it thinking this doesn't feel tight, this feels perfect. And so I'm finding it quite interesting the difference between that and this, because it is the same yarn. This still feels really easy to knit. You know, sometimes when you knit and it's actually quite hard on your hands and things just don't really feel right. This feels like a breeze, you know, it does feel really, really easy. It just flies off the needles and it's lovely. But I find it interesting how much drapier this is. I think this will be better for her because she will wear it over lots of things. She has a situation that means that she doesn't really stay warm. She has to wear lots and lots of clothes. And so the reality is she will be wearing this over 2 other jumpers. So I didn't want it to be too tight and claustrophobic feeling. I think the fact that it's quite drapey and light will be quite good for her. But anyway, I'm doing this because she has a really big birthday this year. It's her 70th. And I really wanted to give her something special for that birthday. So yes. But also, when knitting on this, because I thought it was quite similar to the Plutlopi I'm using. I mean, this is a bit warmer, but it is basically the same colour. But I was really struck by, again, because I had the same feeling when I knit the Fern and Feather, about how much I love the feel of this Lettlopi. I didn't notice it when I was knitting my Maya cardigan. So I wonder if this colour is undyed and softer, because it just feels so flipping delicious. And I don't say that lightly, that's not in my nature to say things like that. When you knit on it, I absolutely love it. It does feel rustic. It doesn't feel itchy in my hands, although I do admit on like bare skin on my neck I do struggle a little bit. It feels like a pleasure to knit with, so it's really made me think about the yarns I choose to knit with, because like if that feels so good, why spend lots of money on other yarns when this feels so nice? But then why did this feel so much nicer than some of the other colours I've knit with? So I know you're now going to say, well, what colour was it that you were knitting with? Because I want to know too, because if it feels so soft, I want some too. I think it's colour 86. Yeah, so I'm on my last ball, so I need to order some more. So maybe I'll place my order before putting this video up, just in case 86 becomes very hard to get hold of. Joking, I know I'm not that popular. But I know Lettlopi is a bit of a mission to get hold of, because especially in this country. So yes, that's that whip. One more knitting whip. One more knitting whip. And this will just be quick because, yeah. I think I shared my progress with you last time about this. So I think a couple of videos ago I shared that I was making some chunky rib socks for my mother-in-law, and I was a bit jealous of them because I really liked them, but I really wanted to keep them as a Christmas present for her for Christmas time. And so I started making some for myself. So this is out of a cashmere merino nylon blend by the Wool Barn, which are all these colours here, held with a strand of Exmoor sock in the colour Mizzle. So this is very inspired by the pair I made for her, which was some scrappy yarn held with some oatmeal 100% wool yarn. I held them together. And this is the, I think, snowshoe sock pattern by Viola. What's her name? It is Viola, but I can't remember her name. I did this last time, didn't I? Emily Foden. Yes, so I've done one and I need to do the other. But that's not going to happen for quite a while because this is definitely not something I'm going to be wearing anytime soon. It's too warm. So, yes, maybe in the autumn I'll finish them. It used to really bother me having lots of unfinished socks, and to an extent it does kind of bother me still. But I'd rather work on my spring socks or try and finish my moon socks. I'd quite like to finish those and have them ready for the autumn. So we shall see. Ugh, I'm getting a bit uncomfortable. I feel like I'm saying a lot quite quickly, but I felt like there was a lot to talk about and I didn't want this video to go on forever. And they normally do. So yeah. Right. Finished object. Can you guess what it is? Maybe you could see it over there. Da, 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 da. How long has this taken me? Has it been a year? I'm actually not sure. Maybe it has been a year. But it is finished. Oh my god. Anticlimactic? Maybe. I don't know. I am so happy it's finished. I'm so happy also that it doesn't look dreadful. There have been so many points where I thought this was going to come out looking horrific. And it hasn't. I'm very happy. So this is the Beetle Magic pullover by Katie Greenbean. Now you can see mine isn't a pullover. This might have been part of the reason why I had so many traumas, I'm not sure. But this was, I can't remember now if it was my first colourwork project or my second colourwork project. I think I might have cast it on and then cast on my Lettlopi Fern and Feather, and then that took over and I finished that, and then I came back to this and then I put it down again and then I picked it up. Anyway, so the colourwork wasn't lying quite as flat as it did in my Lettlopi jumper, and I was a bit sort of downhearted about it. So to start with, I think, let's reel back. To start with, I did the ribbing and the first few rows in size 2.75mm needles, which I think was the recommendation in the pattern. However, the combination of the yarn I was using and this needle size, it hurt my hands so much, I hated it. You obviously then are supposed to size up for colourwork, which I did, and then I just thought I cannot size back down to 2.75mm needles and knit the entirety of this cardigan in that size needle. It is doing my head in. So I didn't go back down afterwards. So this kind of created a bit of a weird tension situation here, which isn't that noticeable because I probably only did about 10 rows in the very tiny needles. However, I don't think I was pulling out my floats as well as I could have done, so the colourwork was very seized up. And after I finished the yoke, I kind of looked at it and thought, that looks awful. I just want to cry. It took me months and it looks awful. So someone suggested that I block it as it was before continuing to see if it would get better. And I did, and I shared that, and it was bearable. It looked good enough to continue, so I continued. And it got a bit easier and a bit more pleasurable. Now, I don't know whether I just sort of decided it is what it's going to be and that's kind of the situation and fine, whatever, or whether because I had blocked it, the yarn got much softer, and so I kind of knew that it wasn't going to be crunchy like it had been. It was really crunchy to start with. And that made me feel a bit better. I don't know. But I carried on and I finished knitting the body and the arms and everything last week. And I did the button band 2 days ago. And this morning I sewed on my buttons. So, yes, it is a pullover. Sorry, I'm a bit all over the place today. I'm trying to show the buttons without it blowing out. Can you see? Is it going to focus? No, like it gets really blown out, doesn't it? I don't think it likes having things too close. Is that better? So it's a pullover pattern by Katie Greenbean. However, I really wanted it to be a cardigan. I cast this on before I cast this on, and I didn't have any hand knit cardigans. And I have 3, but they're all very different. This is like a long one, V-neck. The other one's my Maya cardigan, which is really like thick and chunky and more like a jacket. And this kind of weight and shape is probably something I need a bit more of in my wardrobe. Might give myself some time before I cast another one on though. And so I knew I wanted it to be a cardigan. I thought it'd be quite fun over dresses in the autumn because it's quite earthy. And so I made it quite cropped. And so what I did was, first of all, I messaged Katie saying, I really want to knit your jumper, but I want to knit it as a cardigan. And I am trying to work out in my brain, to do that, where do I need to put the steek stitches, because I want to do a steeked one. So I could continue doing it in the round like the pattern said. And so what I said to her, where is the beginning of round in relation to the garment? Like, where is it on the garment? Is it like on one of the shoulders? Is it at the back? Whatever. And she said it was in the centre of the back. So like right in the middle here. So I was like, great, okay, so that means I need to put my steek stitches halfway around. So we'll say I had to cast on 100 stitches, which isn't true, and I wanted to use 7 steek stitches for the steek. I cast on 107 stitches. I then did the first 50 in pattern, put a stitch marker in, and then did knit purl for 7 stitches, put another stitch marker in, and then continued knitting in pattern until the beginning of round. And then I did that through the whole thing, making sure I broke for my steek stitches every time I went round. Sorry, I think I just noticed a bit of a mistake. It's fine, it's on the back. And so I did that, did everything else the way she said to. I did add some detail on the cuff. So this is the same detail that's on the neck, but I just wanted to add that so that it wasn't completely plain. For some reason this kind of made me feel a bit better about the way it looked. And yeah, just did what you do normally with a steek cardigan. Now, because I started doing this before I had done a proper steek cardigan, i.e. one that comes with instructions on how to do that, there were a couple of things that I perhaps should have done, which I didn't do because I didn't know what to do. With the Maya cardigan, and I'm assuming all steeked cardigans, you did the ribbed neckline flat, then cast on the steek stitches after you'd done the neckband to join into the round. And then when you were doing about to do the band on the bottom, you bound off the steek stitches and did the rib on the bottom flat. Now, that would have made the situation I have going on at the bottom of the button band much neater, because it's a bit, can you see, like that is the poking out, that's the steek that I cut. The corners kind of hang down a bit. Now, my friend sent me some really lovely bug patterned bias tape, and I am going to stitch that on the back to cover up the cut steek. Just haven't got around to it yet, because it's quite rough still, so I haven't done that yet. So you know, it's basically finished, it's not quite. So I am really pleased with it. I haven't really tried it on properly yet. I'm pleased it's done. I don't have that overwhelming feeling just to put it on and wear it. I think because it's quite an autumnal piece, so I might finish it and I might put it away until the autumn, and then, you know, open it up as a bit of a present when it gets a bit colder in the autumn. I don't know. It could look quite nice with this green skirt, so we'll see. I kind of feel like I need to not look at it for a while. The yarn, the blue is some mini skeins from my Advent from Woolly Mammoth Fibre Co. Not last year, the year before. I think it's Rufus's Christmas jumper. I used just over 1. So I did the smallest size of the jumper, but my needles and gauge were completely off, so this isn't how big the smaller size should come out. And I used a thrifted cone of yarn which I dyed with henna, so the whole thing is naturally dyed. However, I think because I've done it cropped, I dyed way too much yarn. I have loads of it left, and I never want to look at it ever again. I've had enough of it, so I am probably going to sell it on, either on Instagram or my Ko-Fi shop. So if anybody would like some of this yarn, it won't be very expensive because it was thrifted and I've dyed it. and I kind of just want it to go to a home that will use it. So I'm going to keep your eye out for that. I'll put a link below if I have uploaded it. Yeah, so it is quite a crunchy yarn. It's not soft, it's very rustic, and it's got some like flecks of tweediness in it. But it's softened up a bearable amount with blocking. And I actually think it's going to be incredibly hard wearing. It feels like it will be a hard wearing cardigan. So I think it very much will be something to wear over a long sleeve something in the autumn. So yes, excited for that at the appropriate time, definitely. So that's my only finished object, and I feel quite proud of that. I also feel quite relieved it's done. So at this stage, that's all of my knitting. So if you're only here for knitting, goodbye, lovely to see you. If you would like to hear a bit about sewing and some other crafts, hang around. So I decided I'd re-record the second part of this video again, just because I wasn't that happy with it the first time I recorded it. So that's why I've had a wardrobe change and look a bit different. It also means I have finished another sewing project since yesterday. The dress I'm wearing actually. When I showed it in the video yesterday, I'd only done about half of it. So I may as well talk about that as well. But yeah, so I'm going to put this down. I also potentially think the light might be a bit better today. I don't have the energy to re-record the whole video, I'm sorry. So yes, hopefully this is okay. And it's not too disjointed, it being recorded in two sections and stuck together. Fabric scraps everywhere. I thought it was a bug, it's just a piece of linen, thankfully. But anyway, I also thought because I'm not wearing them, it might be a bit easier as well to show you some of the jewellery I made. So, yeah, so this is the earring I was trying to show to you earlier. So it's got a mother of pearl moon in there, and then the rest is made from brass. I think you can kind of see. With a slightly matching, not quite matching, but almost matching pendant with some mushrooms on it. Yeah, it's not really focusing, is it? It's not really any better. Never mind. I tried. I'm just going to put those on my table by the camera to stay safe. But yeah, so I've been doing quite a bit of making with like bits of jewellery and stuff like that. So I made a new update of stitch markers, and rather than trying to show them on screen like I did with my necklace and earrings, I'm just going to stick some pictures up. So I did two main new sets, both sort of spring summery themed. One of my, I guess, new passions that kind of goes alongside knitting in the summer is gardening. I'm by no means an expert and really have no idea what I'm doing, and don't really even have a proper garden. I just have a bit of a deck on the garage roof. But we do grow a few bits and bobs, primarily vegetables. And my partner grows strawberries on the roof, so I thought it'd be really fun to make a stitch marker set themed by that. And then I also did one themed by beaches and the sea, because that's something else that brings me a lot of joy this time of year, being by the water. And living very thoroughly in the Midlands, in the centre of the country, it always seems quite far away, even though we are quite a tiny country, and for some people that probably sounds really bizarre because, you know, England is small, but the sea does still seem very far away. So yeah, I just wanted to create some stitch marker sets themed by things that kind of bring me a bit of joy. So if you want some as well, there are some available on my Ko-fi shop. There's a link below. The reason why I've switched from Ko-fi from Etsy is because Etsy fees I'm not exaggerating, are a third of the price you sell something. So when you buy something on Etsy, the person selling that item only gets 2/3 of the money you're paying them. That's including, like, the fees still go on, postage charges, everything. And so it was getting increasingly hard to sell things at a price that people would want to pay, that therefore was also worth my time making them. Because I do really enjoy making small things to share with people, but I also do it as a way of earning a bit of pocket money to fund my crafting addictions, and you know, like, I do need to make a bit of money on that. So yeah, so they're available in my Ko-fi shop. If you feel like funding my crafting addiction, then feel free to take a look. And there's a couple of other bits and bobs in there as well. I also had a bit of a wardrobe clear out. So at the start of Me Made May, which is something that people, I think primarily that sew, not just knit, do on Instagram, where they show off their, like, homemade outfits throughout the month of May. I was looking at, I think, one person's particular, well, a couple of people I follow on Instagram whose wardrobes I find particularly inspiring. And I was looking at my own wardrobe and feeling a little bit like, oh, I don't really know what to wear. I'm really struggling to get dressed in the mornings. And I don't know whether that's a bit combined with it being the start of a new season, or I don't know. And I was getting a bit frustrated with feeling like I didn't have what I wanted or enough, which is ridiculous because I have beautiful clothes. I definitely have enough. Like, I was getting a bit angry at myself, actually. And I was sort of looking at my fabric stash and trying to see, like, okay, well, what gaps can I fill with patterns I've already got, without spending too much money, because I don't really have very much at the moment, after, you know, the big trip I took earlier in the year, and I'm saving up for another big trip. And yeah, I don't know, I got a bit frustrated with myself, and I did sell on a piece of fabric that I had bought from Merchant and Mills, which the colour of didn't really suit what I wanted to make with it, which then enabled me to buy some green check that I did know what I wanted to make with, but equally I was quite happy about that because the fabric went to somebody who's never used Merchant Mills before, was really eager to try, couldn't quite afford the full price and wanted to give it a go, so it gave me lots of pleasure that it was going to somebody who was going to get loads of pleasure out of it, and that I was therefore able to use the money to buy some fabric that was also going to bring me some pleasure, rather than making something for the sake of it. It was something I wasn't too sure about. I mean, I would have definitely made something worth wearing, like some trousers or something, but I decided it didn't really quite go with my skin or hair tone, and it probably wouldn't have looked as good on me as something else could. So yeah, so that was really, so I'll share that project in a second, although you have kind of seen it already, but that prompted me to have a bit of a good look at my wardrobe and pick out some things that I have made that I do really like, that I either don't wear at all or haven't worn very many times because I kind of struggle to wear it. And so I picked out a few of those pieces, and they are also on my Ko-fi shop if anybody would like to rehome them. I would love it if somebody did. It makes me really sad that I have put time and energy and love into these clothing items and I don't wear them. I think it's a real shame, and most of them are made from really good quality fabrics, a lot from Merchant and Mills. And yeah, I guess part of me is a bit sad that I've spent the money on that and then not worn it, like it wasn't a successful make in that sense. And then part of me is also sad that they just sat there in the wardrobe not being worn. So none of them are particularly expensive. I've priced everything basically on the basis of how much the fabric cost to make it. I'm not even really thinking about, like, bias binding trim or thread or buttons or elastic or anything like that, because I know that I can't really sell things for that much, because as sad as it is, I don't think many people are that prepared to pay the cost of what handmade, I mean, all clothes are handmade, but slow fashion really costs. And I would rather that they went somewhere and got worn, and that I could potentially reinvest that money into other crafts than have them sat around and do nothing. So if you are roughly my size, I say roughly because none of my clothes are particularly fitted. I don't really wear fitted clothes. So if you're roughly my size, maybe a bit bigger, maybe a bit smaller, then go take a look. Yeah, grab yourself a bargain. And make me feel better about homing those clothes. That would be lovely. But yeah, enough about that, and I'll share with you my sewing projects. I have done quite a lot of sewing over the last couple of weeks. I again think that might be the change of the seasons. It might be because spring is upon us and I'm no longer wearing 3 jumpers during the day at home. It's only been the last couple of days I've actually started wearing less. This might be the second day I've had of bare legs. This room can be normally around 15 degrees and I think right now it's 19. So to me that's like, oh, one jumper I can get away with one jumper. So I am actually wearing, different to the first part of the video, I'm wearing a new dress that I finished yesterday. It's called the Demeter dress by Annabel Allen Clothing, I think. And this one it's sleeveless. It's got quite a high waist, and I don't know if you can see, but it's got a bit of a curve. And so it's higher here and slightly lower here. And this one just goes past my knees. I'm going to try and stand up and show you. It's quite long. But the consequence of this curve here means that the front of the dress goes up a bit more than it does at the back, which I actually quite like. The skirt in the front and the back is actually just rectangles. The skirt isn't shaped, it's just the bodice here. And so I bought this pattern because I've been eyeing up a similar dress which someone had bought from a slow fashion brand, probably made from linen. This isn't made from linen, I'll tell you in a minute what it is made from. And I was trying to think if I could hack the hinterland dress to be similar. And I had sort of tried in the past with a green dress, which actually is for sale in my Kofi shop. It's a sleeveless green hinterland dress made from a cotton hemp blend. And it just hadn't come out this shape, this specific shape, and that's kind of what I was trying to do. I guess I didn't really understand the shaping here. So I thought, well, I've done a bit of experimentation. I didn't manage to get the dress shapes I wanted with hacking. At this point, it probably is better just to invest some money in a new pattern. And so the shape of the bodice is a bit different to the hinterland. This hasn't got any waist ties. Unfortunately, when I put it on, my partner did say to me, "You look like you could be pregnant in it," and I got really angry with him. I was like, that's not what you say to somebody. It's like, it's not okay on very many levels. And he said, no, it's just very baggy. And I was like, yeah, but it's the sort of clothes I tend to wear, isn't it? And he was like, yes, I suppose so. It is nice. You just look like you could be pregnant in it. And I was just like, but anyway, I love it. It has got a nice loose feeling. I think when it's really hot, it'll be perfect. The fabric is quite structured. I don't know if you can see from the way it moves. It's not super soft. It's actually made from stinging nettles. So the fibre, the fabric, I think is called Ramie. It's spelled like that. I don't know if that's how you say it. I've never heard anyone say it. And so it's got like a tough structured linen feel. I think it will soften with wear. This is only the second time I've worn it, so I think it will get softer, but it does actually feel really good quality and quite hard wearing. I think it'd be really good for trousers. I bought this one from a shop here in England called Textiles Express. I really like it. It's not expensive. It was like £15 a metre, and it's a wide metre, so I used 2 metres to make this dress, which I don't think is too bad. And it's got pockets, and yeah, so I wanted to make a dress this shape because I wanted an orange one for the summer. I do have an orange sundress, but it's backless and it's made from double gauze, and so I think there's like a couple of days a year in England I can wear something like that because it has to be really hot and I have to be comfortable having a bare back. Whereas this I can wear a lot more. Like I can wear it at home, I can wear it to work. I wore it to my friend's barbecue for her birthday yesterday over a long sleeve stripy top. So I think this will be very wearable, but I want to make something similar, I think, in a brown linen with a neck that would work over collared shirts. So I'm probably going to do some layering experimentation at some point. I did, before I made up this one, I did like a toile of the bodice. I don't normally actually do that, to be honest. Sometimes I make my first one out of a slightly cheaper fabric, maybe something like this, rather than investing in something like Merchant & Mills, which is a lot more expensive, to sort of check the fit. But I have quite a lot of really holey bed sheets at the moment, because we seem to have made all of our bed sheets in one go, quite threadbare. And so rather than like throwing them out, I've been using them to make toiles. So you can actually see the curve on the bodice there. But I also did this because I wanted to hack the neckline, because I think the neckline might actually be quite a bit lower on the pattern. I actually cut out, so this is the smallest size of the dress, which is a size smaller than I was meant to do for my bust size. But I looked at the finished garment measurements and it looked like there would still be plenty of ease on my bust, which there is. And then I did the height of the neckline for like size 4 or something, which is like the 5th size in, because it's 0, 0, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then sort of like graded between the two. So it's like a size 4 neckline, but a size smallest for the rest graded across. So I think for it to work with shirts, the shoulders might need to come in a bit more. So I don't really know how to do that. I need to have a bit of a think. I don't know whether that's something like pinching some of the middle out. I don't think I can show you. Or something like that. I thought I'll keep this because that might be quite useful for having a play with how I might do that when it comes to the time of making that autumn one. So yeah, that's quite helpful. And I've written on the back the size details and what I did, because I probably won't remember in the autumn. So I'm going to put that in my brown paper envelope with the cutout pattern so that I can return to that when I need to. And I was actually thinking, so I have this fabric in my stash, which is a really gorgeous sort of chartreuse colour, and this is a linen tencel blend. I might make the same dress in this, or maybe one with buttons down the front, which would be a hack. There isn't any instructions to do that in the pattern, but I think I could work that out by looking at the Hinterland dress. But I don't know, haven't decided. Could be quite nice though. I think it would suit me. I'm not sure. So I'm going to have a think about that. I have this out on the side to look at the moment as a kind of form of inspiration. I might leave it a bit longer just to make up my mind before I cut into it. I really don't want to make another item of clothing. I'm not going to wear loads. Like, I just don't want to waste like a really good fabric or time on that. So I really want to think about that before I do it. So the other thing that I made, which you've already kind of seen, but maybe you can see a bit better now that it's not on me, is my estuary skirt. So this is a pattern by So Liberated. I love her patterns, I wear them loads. I've put, you can have a real placket or a faux placket down the front. This one has a faux placket. There's no buttonholes, I've just stitched the buttons right the way through. I thought I'll never need to unbutton it, so why go to the hassle of doing buttonholes, especially as buttonholes are something you do right at the end, and they have a tendency to go wrong, and like I'm always so worried I'm going to ruin something when I do the buttonholes. So I thought I'm not going to bother, it's just too much stress. So I did have some buttons from Merchant & Mills I wanted to use that I bought for another project, but for the life of me I can't find them anywhere. So this has just got some random vintage buttons in like brownie colours down the front, which I quite enjoy. And I did hack it a bit. It's not as long or as full as the pattern intends. I did show on Instagram a screenshot of a skirt I wanted to make, and everybody kept messaging me saying, estuary skirt, use that pattern. And I was like, I've made one before and it's not the right shape. That isn't what I was imagining. It was like too full. I love it, but it was too full. So I cut, again, the smallest size. I cut out some of the length that kept the shapes and angles as much as possible, and to do that meant I lost some of the width on the side, so it is less full than the pattern intends. It has two pocket options, either inseam pockets or patch pockets. My last one I actually did both. This one I've just done inseam pockets for a cleaner look, and I also added belt loops. However, I need to add a couple more on, there's not quite enough. So it's also a little bit too big on the waist, so I'm actually going to unpick part of the waistband, pull it a bit tighter, and then add 2 more belt loops on either side just to make it a bit more wearable. So if I have the energy today, I might do that after this. But the linen has already gotten really soft. I just love the feel of Merchant Mills linen. It's just like, I really want pyjamas made from it, but that would be too decadent. It would just be heaven to have Merchant Mills linen pyjamas, definitely. Yeah, it just gets softer and softer and softer. So yes, very happy with that. Not really enough left over from my 1.7 meters I bought to do anything with. I'll probably put the leftover scraps into my patchwork blanket I'm making. I also have, which I shared the plans of last time, I made my, this is also a celebrated pattern, I made my Aranite pants. So these were to replace my purple Tencel twill ones that I wore through, which I am still going to mend, and I've had some really good thoughts about how I'm going to mend those. But it's a lot more effort to mend something than it is to make something new. So I'm kind of waiting for a time where I've got some time to really sit down and focus, because otherwise I could wreck them very easily and very quickly, and I don't want to do that. So these have a little handmade label in the back, just because I do find it quite difficult to tell what's the front and the back with these. So with my purple pair, I always find where I join the elastic, like the gathering is never as good. And so I knew that the join for the elastic on my other ones was on my left hip, and that's how I always used to tell that they were on the right way. This is maybe a bit nicer, having a little label. And so they've got really big dramatic pockets and, you know, like a long leg with flat felled seams. I don't know if you can see that. See? Flat felled seams are really lovely because they conceal the raw edges. They are a bit faffy, but I have to say, when I made my purple pair, I feel like it was a really big job. I remember thinking it was a big job to sew them, and I was a bit apprehensive about making another pair because of all the flat felled seams, because it's trousers. But actually, these only took me a day and a half to make. So I was quite pleased. It wasn't as time consuming as I thought it would be. And so these are the Slim Hack. The original ones are much baggier. These are still baggy on me, and I roll up the cuffs, but a lot less than it was intended. I think they're meant to be more like a harem trouser normally, but I think I would look like I'm drowning in something like that. So yeah, I made a copy of the pattern and did her Slim Hack recipe, and which is on her website, I think. And so yeah, really wearable. I would definitely have another pair. I think I did intend to make another pair with this, but I don't think I will. I think I want something else from that fabric. So yeah, so really recommend that pattern. So that's the Aranite pants by So Liberated. Already worn them loads. And then finally, sewing wise, I also made this. So this is the Ashton top by Helen's Closet. I made this from the leftovers from my yellow hinterland dress. I had quite a bit left over, so it's just like a yellow linen with a blue check by Merchant Mills. I bias bound my neck and arms as I did with this, and put in a little tag. And so I normally do use purpose made bias binding, because even if the pattern includes facings or instructions to make your own binding, I find both use a lot of fabric. And when I'm buying something like Merchant Mills linen, I want to make as much out of it as I can. I'm happy to invest in good fabrics, but I'm also a bit stingy at the same time, if that even makes sense. Like, I think I bought 2 meters of this, and I made a short sleeve, shorter hinterland dress for the summer and this top out of 2 meters of the linen. Now the linen probably is £25 a metre, so that was like £50 worth of linen, maybe just under. So for just a dress, that seems like quite a lot of money for me for a really lovely dress and a top with some scraps left over for other things. That seems really good to me. I mean, the fabric is 100% worth that money. I would spend that money on just the dress, but it just seems, it makes me feel a bit better that I'm able to get 2 garments out of the fabric. I actually also really like the pop of colour because there's blue check on this. I think the blue goes really well, and I really like the contrast against the red heart. And so I kind of do that with most of my sewing, to be honest. So I don't know if I can show you this without. This one has a dark blue patterned Atelier Brunette bias binding on it. And I just think it looks really nice on the hanger. It just makes me feel a bit happy seeing that on the inside. So yeah, I think that's all of my, pretty much all of, oh no, I was gonna, should I save it for next time? I think I'll save the other thing for next time because I've shared with you quite a lot, and I think this is going to be over an hour once I've cobbled everything together. I did do a bit of soap and solid shampoo making. So I made these bars of soap quite a while ago, but you have to let them sit for quite a while before you use them. So they're ready for me to start using now. And it's a green clay with calendula, made primarily from olive oil and coconut oil, and then it's got some essential oils in there as well. So I grew the calendula in my garden and dried it, and it smells really lovely. It smells so natural. I love it. And so I've already gifted a couple of bars, and then I think I've got about 10 here for us. We don't use liquid soap anymore in the house. We don't use shower gel. We've used soap for a really long time. I actually really like making soap. The rate we go through soap, I think it'd be quite expensive for us to buy it all unless we were buying cheap soap, but then I'm not convinced that certain cheap supermarket soaps are necessarily any better than the plastic packaged stuff in terms of the ingredients in there. I think, are a lot of them made from like, I don't know, synthetic-y things? I'm not really sure. I don't know what I'm talking about, so probably I should stop talking. But I do really like that this is made primarily just from coconut oil and olive oil and like things that I have grown or collected myself, and I love the smells. And then I've also made a couple of shampoo bars. So a red one and a green one. The green one is made again with green clay, and the red one with red clay, and they've both got calendula in there as well. They look different, but I have to be honest, they're actually exactly the same apart from the colours of the clay. I just did 2 different colours to be a bit more exciting. I don't know. I didn't split the mixture up very evenly, which is why one is much bigger than the other. I also accidentally dropped way too much red clay into the red one, so it was much darker than I intended it to come out. And they've got like lavender and bergamot essential oils in them, so they smell quite gentle and yeah, lovely. And so this is a recipe from the book Botanical Soaps by Bottega Zero Waste, and I've mentioned her before. I really recommend her for natural plastic free soap type recipes. This one really works. If you've tried solid shampoo and your hair's stayed really greasy, I really recommend either following her, reading her book, or having a look at the shampoo highlight I have on my Instagram, because a lot of solid shampoo that's sold as solid shampoo is actually soap, and it's not the right thing for your scalp. So I really recommend having a look at that, because once I understood the science behind it, for me it was like really, okay, wow, that really makes sense. That's so obvious, now I understand. Making your own solid shampoo probably isn't for everybody. I do because, again, it does work out cheaper in the long term to make it yourself. However, it's quite an expensive thing to set out to do. Like, you do have to buy some quite expensive ingredients to start with. I believe it might actually be easier to get those ingredients in America and therefore cheaper, in England, there's not that many places you can buy the ingredients that I need. For instance, you can see here that big white splodge. So the primary ingredient in this, in England, I only seem to be able to find it in really big chunks, and then I have to grind it up myself. Obviously that's a bit that escaped being ground. The problem is it's really nasty to breathe in. Like it really floats into the air quite easily, and so I don't really enjoy grinding it. But if you can buy it already ground, which I think is easier in America, you know, it makes it much easier. And actually with a solid shampoo, the hardest part is getting the ingredients. There's no cooking or anything really involved, it's just mixing stuff together and shoving it in a form and compacting it together. So yeah, I do really recommend giving her a look if you're into natural skincare. I use a lot of her recipes. I think this afternoon I'm going to make myself some more makeup remover because my little bottles run out. And yes, I think that's it really. I might do some candle making later. Weirdly, at the start of this video, this half of the video, I felt absolutely shattered. Talking to you guys for half an hour seems to have woken me up a bit, so thank you. And that's it. I will talk to you soon. Maybe not as long next time. We're going to Scotland in a couple of weeks, so maybe the next video will be after that. That's our kind of yearly holiday together, because my partner didn't come with me to Mexico. That was to see a friend, so this is our sort of annual holiday together. I might have included some clips at the beginning of this or the end somewhere of our weekend away on the Isle of Wight. That was to see some friends that live over there. It was really short, but it was really lovely to get away. And yeah, I hope everyone's doing okay. I hope everyone's getting some crafting in. Yeah, speak to you soon.